History should be the
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think we should get started because it's extremely hot in here. I'd like to pass over to Mr. Jeremy Huck, who is President of BP Russia, to introduce the panel for this presentation and Q&A. Jeremy?
Thank you, Richard. Welcome, everybody, to this event. I'm just going to let you know what's going to happen and then turn it over to the people up in front here. BP and Rosneft are signing a strategic framework agreement today. This is linked to the agreements that were signed in London 2 weeks ago. And with us today we have Carl-Henrik Svanberg, the chairman of BP, Bob Dudley, the CEO of BP, Eduard Hudaynatov, the president of Rosneft, and Igor Sechin, the chairman of Rosneft and the deputy prime minister of Russia. So with that, we'll begin the signing. We'll have some short remarks from the president of, from the chairman of Rosneft and the CEO of BP, and then there should be time for some question and answers. So, why don't we start the signing? Congratulations. Over to you, Bob.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. First, I'd like to say that our thoughts are with the families of the victims of the bombing at Domodedovo Airport in Moscow. We at BP feel that we are very much a part of the community in Russia, so tragic events such as these are felt very deeply by our staff, as well as our staff, as well as the Russian people. I believe that the strategic and Arctic alliance that we've announced with Rosneft is historic. It's a historic development for BP, for our industry, for Russia, and I believe the wider world of global energy. We're building on a relationship between BP and Rosneft that's been forged over 20 years with Russia. We're now going far beyond anything that has gone before and creating an entirely new strategic alliance between what I think are two great companies. For Rosneft and Russia, it offers a broad range of opportunities, not only in the development of resources in the Arctic, but extending to European refining and further global upstream cooperation between our companies. For BP, this is a key step in our strategy to seek and work in some of the world's leading hydrocarbon basins, and work that is based on mutual advantage and trust in using our expertise in exploration in frontier areas and developments. We already have, I think, a distinctive position in Russia. TNK-BP has been and continues to be a great source of growth and value for us and our partners at AAR since 2003. We remain fully committed to this partnership, and we will, of course, work within all of our agreements. This new alliance offers us the chance to work in a world-class opportunity in the Russian Arctic. The deal complements BP's exploration skills and builds on a leading position in the wider Arctic region, which includes a 40-year track record of operating in Arctic conditions in Alaska and our experience with TNK-BP in the onshore Siberian Arctic. We bring our learnings, our emphasis of the need for safety and the environment and the integrity to all of our activities, and you will know that we have learned many lessons in the last year. Since 2005, we worked in partnership with Rosneft to conduct technical studies of the South Kara Sea. It's one of the most prospective unexplored basins in the world. It is an area roughly in size and prospectivity of the UK North Sea. And for the first time in the history of our industry, there is a significant cross-holding of shares between an international oil company a major national company, and this demonstration of mutual confidence and trust in our ability to create value together, deliver growth, and meet the world's growing demand for energy, I think provides something of a template for how business can be done to the benefit of all, producers, consumers, shareholders, and governments. The alliance has the support of both the Russian federal government and the UK government. I truly believe it is the kind of alliance for the 21st century, and it is one based on the promise of the future and not the legacies of the past. It demonstrates BP's confidence in the Russian investment climate, and it demonstrates it with real concrete actions. And we are already in action since the signing of our first agreements 1 week ago. And as I have said before, as someone who has lived and worked in Russia for many years, I do find it difficult to convey clearly how promising I find this historic agreement for BP, for Rosneft, and indeed, I believe, for the future of the energy industry. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Bob, I think we're going to ask the president of Rosneft, Edward Hunaynatev, to say a few words. Edward.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much. I would not like to repeat what my counterpart here have stated. I'm also very much encouraged by such a strategic alliance that we have signed today. We are deepening our cooperation after the two agreements signed on the stock swapping and the joint project that we're going to pursue in Novoprimzemelsky in the Arctic. We are extending it further in terms of our partnership to further explore the Russian Arctic, the eastern and the northern part. We are deepening our partnership, going about the discussions to enter into partnership arrangements in third countries, offshore and on mainland. We have practically, as of this point in time, are starting to work over establishing our Arctic technology centers. That is the outcome of the previously signed agreements, and this strategic partnership will strengthen our alliance and again confirms our confidence and further identifies our plans to deepen our cooperation for many, many years to come for the benefit of the interests of our two countries and our two nations. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask the chairman of Rosneft and the deputy prime minister for his remarks. Igor Sechin.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Bob, for the words of condolences. I similarly wanted to express my condolences to all the family members of those who suffered as a result of the terrorist attack at Domodedovo. That is a very dramatic and tragic event. Speaking about today's event, we have just witnessed a very significant signing of the strategic partnership agreement between BP and Rosneft. However, this event, no matter how significant it may seem, is not an isolated occurrence. I believe that this is a logic consequence of the kind of work that is being done in Russia, both at the corporate level as well as by the federal authorities and the Russian government. And the positive changes taking place in the Russian economy during the past few years. And the most important result is the strengthening of trust in between the Russian partners and investors who are interested in an effective investment of their funds into different Russian industries. Just a few words about the results of last year. In 2010, the production of oil in Russia reached 505 million tons. And that is 10% more compared to the previous year. In this way, the Russian Federation and the Russian companies right now are taking up the first place in the production of crude in the world. The production of natural gas amounted to approximately 650 billion cubic meters. And with this regard, I would like to note that 150 billion is the contribution made by independent producers, and we've got one of them present here in this room, Mr. Michelson, the senior shareholder and the chairman of the Novatek company. In the power sector, the production of electricity in 2010 amounted over to 1,000 terawatt hours, which is a very big figure. At the same time, I'd like to note that in 2010, we have produced more electricity than back in the days of the Soviet Union at the peak of the growth of the generation capacities back in the 1980s. Overall, last year, the GDP growth amounted to 4%. And we are expecting longer term a stable GDP growth in the range of 4 to 6 and maybe even more % a year. And that is very briefly so, as not to distract you from the kind of results that we have achieved last year. Now, about what were the drivers behind such results. When in the end of 2007 and in the beginning of 2008 in Russia, together with the rest of the world, faced the global financial crisis, we faced a very big acute issue of what should be the means and the methods of economic policy that we can apply in order to overcome this crisis. At the same time, certainly pursuing a very well-balanced social policy, avoiding crises and social tensions. The government was able to identify effective measures, as we thought, to stabilize the consequences and overcome the consequences of the crisis. And most importantly, out of what we were able to do, is to maintain and support the banking sector, avoiding the collapse of the financial system. And I believe that I won't tell you a lie if I say that the leading Russian banks, such as Sberbank and Vnestor Bank, Gazprom Bank and others, were able to survive through the crisis on a much stronger footing. Secondly, we were able to prevent the bankruptcy of the biggest corporate entities which support the livelihood of the whole cities, being able to maintain employment and without allowing for the livelihood of the population to go down. Under the dire conditions that many leading companies had to face, the government decided not to go towards partial or full nationalization, and I would like to draw attention specifically to the fact that in other economies that was exactly the path that the authorities followed. We provided financial support to a number of leading corporates. We put it on a commercial footing, being very well aware that the private sector has to stay the locomotive of the economic development. I am not going to quote all the examples, but I believe that some of the major ones that you've heard of, which are Norilsk Nickel, Russian Aluminium, Rusal and Autovaz. Moreover, the new privatization program, as it seems, is another step towards the very same result. I would like to underscore once again, the market-based competitive economy is the principle of economic development of Russia. The agenda of the economic policies, you may be well aware, includes further upgrading and modernization of the Russian economy and its diversification. And in the conventional, traditional sectors, we are going to demonstrate the necessary flexibility in order to stimulate and incentivize its development. I believe that you know, and the experts who are present in this room, as well as the leaders of various companies, and Mr. Oleg Perev, who is here, who is running Lukoil, they know that the special tax regime has been applied to the offshore fields. The tax incentives already have produced a lot for the development of the East Siberian hydrocarbon deposits, as well as during the construction of the long-distance pipelines which connect Western Siberia and the Far Eastern ocean shores of Russia. The government is going to continue to subsidize R&D and the development of the technology which is necessary to develop the remote natural deposits. And all of this is what we are going to do and are doing in a very close cooperation with our international partners. Integration into the global economy is the most important condition for our successful economic and technological development. And today's signing ceremony is another testimony to the fact that these are not just mere words. This is exactly what we have decided to do and what we are doing. I believe that it would also be worth saying that this is not the only deal that we're having concluded. During the past 30 days, we have entered into a great number of breakthrough contracts and agreements for the cooperation with many companies from other countries. We are cooperating not only with British Petroleum, we're also working together with Chevron. Rosneft, by the way, have concluded a respective agreement with Chevron for the exploration of a number of fields. In the very end of last year, we signed a very serious agreement with General Electric to establish a joint venture to produce gas turbines, to produce medical equipment in Russia. A whole set of agreements with Russian companies have been signed by Alstom. And at the same time, I believe it is noteworthy that we're talking about a very deep technological cooperation. I would like to once again say that we have no prejudices. We are ready to work with our partners and foreign investors in all areas. There's just one condition that we are after, is an equitable participation. And an implementation of specific projects. Generally speaking, we are looking forward for everyone to come with specific proposals. Please come. And I believe that the capacity of the Russian market, the stability of the political system, produce confidence in successful implementation of such projects. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask Carl Henrik if he wanted to say a few words.
Well, thank you, and let me just say that we're all at BP very enthusiastic about this opportunity. Chairman Sechin just put the whole opportunity in context, in a good context of the development that goes on in Russia. We just last week we presented our energy outlook for 2030, which I think is largely shared by analysts all over the world. I believe my microphone was not on. Let me start from the beginning. Let me first say that we are at BP very enthusiastic about this global alliance. And Chairman Sechin just shared his views on the development in Russia and in the context that we should see this global alliance. We have also in BP just launched our 2030 energy outlook, where we conclude, and I think that is shared by most analysts around the world, that the world will need some 40% more energy by 2030. That means that we as a world have a challenge to produce 2 times United States energy consumption in the next 20 years. The Russian Arctic is one of the remaining basins and areas of huge potential for finding oil. And we believe that when we combine Rosneft's and BP's capabilities and assets, there's a big chance that this will be very successful. And as Mr. Dudley concluded, if it is, it'll be good for Russia, it'll be good for BP shareholders, and it'll be good for the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I think we have time for some Q&A, which Richard is going to lead for us.
Thank you very much. We have time for just 2 or 3 questions. So if you can put your hand up and say where you're from, and we'll get on with it. So, gentlemen, just there.
Hello. Илья Дмитриевич, корреспондент ТАСС. Мой вопрос...
Ilya Dmitrichev, TASS correspondent. My question is to Dmitry Ivanovich Sechin. Could you please tell me the decision of the Russian court on the Khodorkovsky second case? Do you believe that this particular judgment undermines the investment climate in Russia?